Today, since we got back from doing the famous Ha Giang Loop, we booked our adventure with Jasmine Tours, who are one of the leading tour companies for the Ha Giang Loop. We booked it through the Central Backpackers Hostel, which is one of the more popular hostels within Hanoi, and they sorted everything out for us from there.
If you don't know what the Ha Giang Loop is, it's basically a motorbike trek with some of the most beautiful scenery in the world. You cover over 400 kilometres in distance, and we did it in December, which is not the best time of year to do it. But we can only imagine how good it would be if you were to do it in summer.
It is one of the more expensive experiences within Vietnam, but you've got to bear in mind Vietnam is a cheap country, so obviously that is relative. It costs about £160 or $190 for the 4-day, 3-night experience that we did. However, there are cheaper options if you chose to do the 3 days and 2-night tours. So we arrived in the Ha Giang after a long night on a sleeper bus from Hanoi. We arrived at Jasmine Hostel approximately 4 AM and managed to get checked in and catch a good few hours sleep before our first big day.
So the first morning was pretty slow getting going. We had our breakfast, got our insurance sorted, we got our bikes each, got our elbow and shin pads, and then we sat through quite a lengthy briefing.
However, as the days moved on and people got a little bit more comfortable with the morning routine, the days did go a lot more smoothly. This is what you can expect a typical day on the Ha Giang Loop to look like.
So you'd start off with breakfast in the morning. You'd either get 2 options, egg and bread or noodle soup. If you were lucky, you'd get pancakes,
which were pretty tasty. Then you'd obviously get everything sorted, geared up, get ready to go, and we'd head off to our first viewpoint. We'd usually aim to set off around 8:30, 9:30, but more often than not it would lead towards 9, 10 o'clock.
So after your first viewpoint, you'd head off to a coffee stop,
where you'd be able to get a coffee with milk, which in Vietnam is actually a coffee with condensed milk, which I'm sure you'll grow to love as much as we did. After you've stopped at the coffee, you'd move on to your next viewpoint. Again, if you're doing it in December, you might be greeted with a lot of clouds. However, if you're lucky, or a lot more lucky than us, then you might be blessed with blue skies and the best views you've ever seen in your life.
So then we'd ride off to lunch. Lunch was usually the same, but we absolutely loved it.
Well, we did love it, although some people in our group did get side of the same sort of thing. We'd get spring rolls, where we'd be lucky if they were hot, but when they were hot, they were fantastic. We'd get a bowl full of noodles, get a bowl full of rice, we'd get plates of tofu, we'd get some chicken, occasionally we'd get a bit of pork, but all in all it was an extremely tasty lunch and it did definitely see us through for the rest of the day.
So then after your lunch, you'd probably head off to another viewpoint before then heading off back to your homestay. So once we got back to our homestay, we'd have a couple of hours to chill out, get showered and relax before a big team feed.
The team feed would be very similar to your lunch, your typical Vietnamese cuisine, which we absolutely loved. It is fantastic, and it would be impossible to get through the team feed without approximately 27 shots of happy water.
Hai ba so so so. Hai ba hết. Hai ba hết. Cheers.
So after dinner, you do karaoke some nights, we did card games or just general socialising with the other groups.
So as much socialising as there was, the homestays do draw the line at about 10 PM. That's when all the music turned off. You're more than welcome to stay out, carry on drinking and getting served till 11, and then the bars shut and you're left to your own devices from then.
But if you like an early night, then don't worry because the music does stop at 10.
So one question you might want to ask, and something we wondered before booking the tour, is it actually worth booking through a tour company, or would you be just as well doing it solo and going off on your own?
So before making that decision, there's a couple of things that you might need to consider. Number one is the time of year. Obviously, if you're going in winter like we did, the roads are a lot more slippy, it's a lot more dangerous. So obviously having that tour guide there would be a lot more reasonable.
However, if it's summer, you might be a little bit more comfortable going off on your own. Number two is your level of experience on a bike. If you're somebody who's maybe got a motorbike licence back at home, if you've had plenty of experience riding mopeds or semi-automatic or automatic bikes around in different countries, then you might be a little bit safer going off on your own. However, if it's not something you've experienced or your experience levels are low, then you might be safer going through a tour company. This is because all the time you're going with a tour, you've got the option to get back and get an easy rider and just sit back and enjoy the views.
And number three is your experience backpacking or travelling. So you need to be comfortable if you're going on your own to go up to the homestays and ask if they've got any space and be prepared if they need to turn you down.
So booking with a tour company of course has its pros and cons, so we'll go through a few of them now.
So to begin with, for the pros, number one, it's safer. So you're going with a local tour guide who knows the roads and they're very experienced. Number two, it's stress-free, so you've got all your accommodation and food paid for, the route's already planned, all you've got to do is follow and take in the views. And number three, it's more social, so it's a great opportunity to meet new people and make new friends.
Moving on to the cons, it is restrictive, which means you're bound to a time scale and you've got no say in where you go to eat or sleep. Number two, you're only as fast as your slowest rider. This includes getting ready to leave in the morning. Number three is the social aspect. Although this could be amazing, it completely depends on the random group that you're put with. If you put into a group of people that you get on with, that you vibe with, then obviously it's going to be fantastic. But if you put into a group where they're not really your type of people, or maybe you're just the type of person that doesn't want to socialise every single night, then you might find that that is a little bit of a con as opposed to a pro.
A hindrance.
That's a bit of a hindrance.
So before we go on to the conclusion, there's a couple of key points to note. So the weather is number one. If you've got time, check the forecast beforehand and pack appropriately. We did have to buy gloves while we were out there, and obviously if you're doing it in the winter, pack plenty of layers, but in the summer, obviously you've got less clothes to pack.
The second key point is don't underestimate the Ha Giang Loop. It can be dangerous. There are plenty of horror stories that go on. We've heard a few in the past couple of weeks. So if you don't feel comfortable on a bike, you can always opt for the easy rider. There's no shame in it. Nobody's going to think any less of you. And if anything, you get more time to take in the views.
So to conclude the video, we do think it's a once in a lifetime experience. It was absolutely amazing, one of the best things we've ever done and different to anything we've done before. It is great value for money, coming down to £40 a day. It's absolutely amazing for the experience you get.
And although it is dangerous, as long as you don't underestimate it, you know your limits, you listen to your tour guide, you will be absolutely fine. And it goes without saying, nobody's going to think any less of you for deciding to take on an easy rider. When you're travelling, it's easy to get into the habits of scrimping and saving, but for us at least, the Ha Giang Loop is exactly the type of experience that we came travelling for in the first place. And although £160 or $190 does seem like a lot in one big lump sum, realistically it's not that much, and it 100% is worth the money.
Yeah, sick!
We hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe.